go to open the hatch.
EV1 functional. EV2 functional.
Good morning from the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center. For the second time in 11 days, 2 NASA astronauts will venture outside of the Quest airlock of the International Outpost today to conduct a spacewalk. But this time, unlike the planned excursion out of Quest back on May 12th, today's spacewalk is what is called a critical contingency spacewalk, necessitated by the failure of one of 2 redundant computer data relay boxes on the S0 truss of the station, called a multiplexer demultiplexer, or MDM. It suddenly failed on Saturday morning. No cause for that failure has been identified. You are looking live inside the equipment lock section of the Quest airlock, where Thomas Pesquet in the blue shirt from the European Space Agency with his back to the camera and Russian cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky on the right are equipping Expedition 51 Commander Peggy Whitson with her simplified aid for EVA rescue jetpack. That's called a safer jetpack that is worn by all spacewalkers in the unlikely event they would become untethered during the course of a spacewalk. They could propel themselves back to the safety of space station structure. On the left is flight engineer Jack Fisher. Whitson and Fisher are 2 spacewalkers for today, and we'll have more on them in just a moment. Although the crew has never been in any danger since that MDM went down and no station operations have been affected, the replacement of this MDM with a spare is a high priority to ensure that the space station has redundancy and fault tolerance to this data relay box's operation. The 2 external MDMs, as they are called, are responsible for a number of vital station functions, such as the operation of the solar arrays, the radiators, cooling loops, electrical power generation, and the robotic equipment on the outpost. After this MDM failed on Saturday, station program managers met with the international partners and flight control teams to determine if a contingency spacewalk could be mounted as early as today. Those plans came together, and on Sunday, the green light was given for today's excursion to replace this failed MDM. As was the case on May 12th, as we mentioned just a moment ago, our spacewalkers today are Expedition 51 Commander Peggy Whitson and Flight Engineer Jack Fisher of NASA. This will be the 201st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance, the 10th for Whitson, which will tie her with Mike Lopez Alegria for the most spacewalks ever conducted by an American astronaut. This will be the 2nd spacewalk for Fisher. And as you saw in the downlink from the Quest airlock a moment ago, helping the crew suit up and helping them move inside the crew lock section of Quest are Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency and Oleg Novitsky. There you see in that view from the Russian Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos. Novitsky and Pesquet will be the 2 crew members who will return home on June 2nd in the Soyuz MSO-3 spacecraft for a landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan to wrap up 196 days in space, 194 days on board the International Space Station. As far as today is concerned, just 20 minutes into today's spacewalk, Whitson will vault past former NASA astronaut Jerry Ross into 4th place on the all-time spacewalking list for aggregate spacewalking time. And just 55 minutes into today's excursion, she will move past former NASA astronaut John Grunsfeld into 3rd place. Just 2 tasks will occupy the crew today during what is expected to be a brief 2.5-hour spacewalk. Whitson will tackle the replacement of the failed MDM, or multiplexer demultiplexer, at the S0 truss. As she does that, Jack Fisher simultaneously will install a pair of antennas on the Destiny laboratory to be used on future spacewalks for enhanced wireless communications capability, and that is it for this spacewalk. The MDM, which is deemed so critical for safe station operability, weighs about 50 pounds on Earth, measures 14.4 inches by 8 inches by 13.2 inches. It is referred to as a Tier 2 avionics box. Loaded into the MDM are upgraded software processing cards for the improved routing of commands to station hardware. Back on April 11th, 2014, one of the two external MDMs in the S0 truss failed in a similar but not identical fashion, as did the relay box that failed this past Saturday, resulting in today's spacewalk. Back then, engineers formulated plans for a contingency spacewalk that was conducted on April 23, 2014, by Expedition 39 crew members Steve Swanson and Rick Mastracchio. They made swift work of that MDM swap out, their EVA that day lasting just an hour and 36 minutes. Recently, two spare MDMs were refurbished with upgraded processing cards and installed on the truss, first on March 24th by Expedition 50 crew members Shane Kimbrough and Thomas Pesquet. That was MDM number 2, and on March 30th by Kimbrough and Whitson, MDM number 1. It is MDM-1 that was installed on March 30th by Kimbrough and Whitson that failed this past Saturday. In all, the International Space Station uses 44 multiplexer demultiplexers connected in 3 separate tiers to control almost all aspects of the station's operation in what you could imagine to be a cascading commanding capability. There are 3 top-level Tier 1 MDMs that are tied together, one actively processing data and sending commands, or one that's in a warm backup mode, a hot backup mode that processes data but has no commanding capability unless it is called upon to do so, and one that is powered up but in standby mode. The Tier 1 MDMs are double fault tolerant, meaning the station can operate with 2 failures and still conduct all of the commanding required for safe operations. However, these 2 external MDMs that are installed with EPIC software cards, EPIC is the acronym for Enhanced Processing Interface Cards, they are part of the Tier 2 level of multiplexer demultiplexers in that command architecture. They are only 1 fault or single fault tolerant, meaning the station can continue normal operations with just one of the 2 operating, which is the case as of today. So that is a little bit of MDM 101 for you. This is a task today resulting in a contingency spacewalk that used to be called the Big 12, Big 13, Big 14, depending on how many systems you wish to categorize it as. Some of the other key equipment that requires an immediate spacewalk for replacement or repair work, such as we will see over the next few hours today, include any system that develops a leak of cooling ammonia for the cooling loops on the station, pump modules for the external thermal control system, a flex hose rotary coupler, an interphase heat exchanger, any issue involving the operation of the solar array wings to rotate to track the sun as the station orbits the Earth, an ammonia tank assembly, a nitrogen tank assembly, a main bus switching unit that routes electrical commands for the systems on the International Space Station. Systems of that nature are the key systems that must be replaced or repaired very quickly through a contingency EVA should that become necessary. And of course, the external multiplexer demultiplexer hardware falls into that category, and that's why we are in today's contingency spacewalk. As you see Jack Fisher now moving inside the crew lock section of the Quest airlock, which has 2 compartments, the outermost compartment being the crew lock. The innermost compartment is the equipment lock. The crew was up early today. They suited up in fine fashion very swiftly with the assistance of Pesquet and Novitsky. No leakage of any internal airlock equipment, such as we saw back on May 12th with the leak that was incurred to a service and cooling umbilical that was hooked up to Jack Fisher's suit. That was replaced by a spare last week, and so the suits are in great shape. All of the station hardware is ready for today's spacewalk, which is set to begin no later than about 7 a.m. Central Time. However, the crew is running at least 30 or more minutes ahead of the timeline. So with the crew already inside the crew lock section of Quest, that hatch will be closed a short time from now, and the crew will begin the process of depressurizing the crew lock section of Quest down to vacuum before they place their suits on internal battery power to mark the official start of today's spacewalk, which again will be the 201st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance, and the 6th spacewalk conducted out of the Quest airlock this year. Here in the flight control room, the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers has just completed a shift handover from the overnight shift that helped the crew with all of its suit-up procedures. This is the team that will execute today's spacewalk. Again, a contingency spacewalk expected to last no more than 2.5 hours by Whitson and Fisher to replace this failed multiplexer-demultiplexer and to install a pair of antennas on the Destiny laboratory that will be used for wireless communications capability in the future. You're looking at Flight Director Brian Smith, who's on console for today's spacewalk. When the failure of this MDM occurred on Saturday, Smith was called up to lead what is known as a Team 4 effort, basically a Tiger team, to analyze the circumstances surrounding the data relay box failure, and then to mobilize plans for today's spacewalk. So Brian Smith is your flight director for today at the bottom of your screen, joined on console just to his right by two astronauts who will serve as communicators to the crew, both on board the International Space Station and then outside the station when the spacewalk begins. Doug Wheelock is just to the right of Brian Smith, a veteran astronaut with 6 spacewalks of his own on his resume. And just to his right is astronaut Jessica Meir. She will be the ground IV, or intravehicular, crew member who will serve as the spacewalk Capcom, if you will, the communicator who will be talking directly to Whitson and Fisher as they make their way outside of the Quest airlock, essentially acting as a spacewalk choreographer, running through the procedures that will assist them during the course of their excursion. In the dark jacket on your screen there is Spacewalk Officer Sarah Corona. She is the lead spacewalk officer for today's contingency EVA. All of these procedures are pretty straightforward. Essentially, the crew will open up the hatch to the Quest airlock, make their way outside, and then they'll part ways, with Whitson moving to the S0 truss to begin the work of removing the failed multiplexer demultiplexer. There are 3 bolts holding it in place in its slot that is side by side with another multiplexer demultiplexer on the S0 truss of the station. While she conducts that work, which is a single crew member task, Jack Fisher will be clambering onto the Destiny laboratory of the International Space Station to install these 2 wireless communications antennas, and that is it for today's spacewalk, expected again to last no more than 2.5 hours if all goes as planned. The International Space Station is currently orbiting 250 miles above the Earth, moving from northwest to southeast across the South Atlantic, all of its systems in good shape, orbiting 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator.
I don't think so.
Hey, Station Houston, I'm 1, and you guys are now live comm, hot mic.
Sounds good.
EV1 copies.
EV2 copies.
Okay, we got you both loud and clear.
And Jeremy, I might go to press with step 84.
And Thomas, can you repeat?
There was a question for
Stand by,
Jeremy.
Thomas.
Stand by, Thomas.
Just to recap the record book on tap for today, Peggy Whitson about to begin the 10th spacewalk of her career. Her very first spacewalk occurred in her first long-duration mission on the International Space Station in August of 2002, when she ventured outside of the Pirs docking compartment, clad in a Russian Orlan spacesuit, with Russian cosmonaut Valery Korzun to mount debris panels on the outside of the Zvezda service module. Today, Whitson's spacewalk, the 10th of her career, will tie her with Mike Lopez Alegria, former NASA astronaut, for most spacewalks by an American astronaut, with 10. At the top of the list, Anatoly Soloviev, the renowned Russian cosmonaut, is the all-time leader with 16 spacewalks, totaling 78 hours and 21 minutes of spacewalking time. Lopez Alegria's 10 spacewalks logged 67 hours and 40 minutes, so he will remain in second place after today's spacewalk. But as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, 20 minutes into today's spacewalk, Whitson will surpass Jerry Ross for aggregate time in spacewalks. Ross with 9 spacewalks, 57 hours, 55 minutes. Ahead of him, John Grunsfeld, the Hubble Space Telescope repairman. Grunsfeld has 8 spacewalks in his credit, 58 hours, 30 minutes. Whitson will surpass Grunsfeld at the 55-minute mark in today's contingency spacewalk.
Two fish on UIA while the concept will take the deep manual isolation valve to open. Expect an alert tone. Happy. Ready for open?
Ready.
And deep press pump manual isolation valve is open. You will monitor your suit pressure gauge during the deep press.
And like clockwork, the depressurization of the crew lock is underway. The crew running well ahead of their scheduled timeline for the day. The goal here is to get them out, to get that multiplexer, demultiplexer replaced, and to get them back inside as quickly as possible. There is no constraint in terms of consumables. It's just that the crew, which has been working very hard on research and other activities on the station, has this spacewalk now on their plate for today, and the goal is to get a newly operative MDM installed in the S0 truss and get the crew safely back inside.
Okay, Station Thomas, this is me handing over to Wheels now. Great work today, and have a good spacewalk, Two Fish and Peggy.
Two fish and Peggy. Yeah, Jeremy, it was fun, and thanks for your work. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon, buddy.
Absolutely, likewise.
The off-going spacecraft communicator, Jeremy Hansen, astronaut from the Canadian Space Agency, wishing the two spacewalkers all the best. Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency, of course, is coordinating all of the depressurization activities and all of the monitoring of the crew's suits and systems inside the crew lock section of Quest as the depressurization of the airlock continues. This will be done in a two-step fashion. The depressurization will halt at the 5 PSI mark, pounds per square inch of pressure. There will be an opportunity for the crew to monitor their communication systems, do one more leak check on their suits, and ensure that they're in good shape, as they have been throughout the course of the morning so far, before the depressurization resumes down to vacuum. Shortly after that, the crew will conduct one final check with the flight control team here in Houston, and then will place their suits on internal battery power to mark the official start of this 201st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I had serial number 19 and 22 for the old metal canisters that I've removed from the suit. And right now they're in mode 1, but I'll put them back in the bag as soon as those guys are out the door.
Okay, copy. Great numbers. That's what we expected, Thomas. And you have a go to put them away when you're able.
All right, Doug. Thanks.
NPSI.
Okay, and at 6, expect an alert tone, and at 5, to fish, you will take the manual isolation valve to close. Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston, the depressurization of the Quest Airlock's crew lock section, with Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher clad in their extravehicular mobility units, all set to go to begin this contingency spacewalk a short time from now. They are running almost an hour ahead of the timeline now. Once the crew lock is depressurized down to vacuum, there'll be a final check of their suits, communication systems, and they will open the outer thermal hatch to the Quest airlock before placing their suits on internal battery power to begin the spacewalk. A U.S. spacewalk, its elapsed time is measured from the time the crew places their suits on internal battery power until repressurization begins. The Russian spacewalks are measured from hatch open to hatch close on the Pirs docking compartment on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station from which Russian spacewalks are conducted. Peggy Whitson will again be designated today as EV1, or extravehicular crew member number 1. She will be wearing the suit bearing the red stripes. Jack Fisher, EV2, or extravehicular crew member number 2, has the suit with no stripes. You will, as usual, be seeing an up-close and personal view of the work outside through helmet cameras that are being worn by Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher. Once those helmet cameras are activated after the crew gets outside, Peggy Whitson's helmet camera will carry the number 18 in the lower right-hand corner of any views you see from that apparatus. Jack Fisher's helmet camera will carry the number 20 in the lower right-hand corner.
PSI.
Copy, 6 PSI.
Five 7. Five 4. Five 2.
Copy, 5-2.
Five 1. Five 0.
Depress pump manual isolation valve closed.
Copy, the depress pump is closed at 5.0 PSIA. You will status until you get leak check question mark, and then give me a yes.
Inward.
And once the leak check has started, you will follow the displayed instructions.
Copy, number 1.
Copy for 2.
This is Mission Control, again watching European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet in the equipment lock section of the Quest airlock. Just to his left is the hatch that separates him from our two spacewalkers for today, Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher. The depressurization of the Quest airlock has paused at 5 psi, 5 pounds of pressure per square inch. The depressurization will resume momentarily down to vacuum.
ET is 25 minutes.
V2 is an EVA.
Copy V2.
Airlock Houston on 1. Thomas, once you get confirmation that they're both in EVA, you can press on no need to hold in step 9. You can.
You're right, I was reading that wrong. Thanks, Doug. And
Okay, position EVA
so,
for 1.
You said you're in EVA?
Yes, I am now.
Okay, EV1 is in EVA, EV2 is in EVA. Two fish, you'll take the depress pump manual isolation valve to open. You will expect an alert tone.
Copy, coming open. Depress pump manual isolation valve open.
Copy open, and now I will take the emergency MPEV to open. You'll monitor your chute P gauge as the crew lock is depressing, same as before, should stay higher than 5.5.
Copy.
Stay lower than 5.5.
That should be lower than 5.5, Thomas.
Emergency NPEV is open. Pressure is decreasing. For those just joining us on NASA television, you're looking live into the Quest airlock of the International Space Station. Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency working procedures as we are depressurizing the Quest airlock of the International Space Station in preparation for the start of this contingency spacewalk a few minutes from now by Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher, the two NASA astronauts. Whitson, the space station commander, Fisher, the flight engineer belonging to Expedition 51, as they prepare to go outside to replace a failed computer data relay box called a multiplexer demultiplexer, and to install a pair of antennas for enhanced wireless communications capability on the Destiny laboratory. The spacewalk necessitated by the failure of one of the two fully redundant multiplexer demultiplexers in the S0 truss of the station back on Saturday morning. Up to 2.8.
The International Space Station is now moving from southwest to northeast across the Indian Ocean on a track that will carry the complex and its 5 crew members, 2 of whom soon to be outside of the station. They'll be carrying themselves directly over Jakarta, Indonesia, a short time from now.
Point 2.
V2.2.
Point 1. 2.0.
Press pump manual isolation valve is closed.
Copy, and 2 fish, you will switch the depressor pump power to off OFF.
Press pump power is off.
Because I go to attach your waste tethers and configure them the way you want them.
Okay. My left waist tether is locked on my left D-ring extender and locked on the airlock D-ring extender. Hey, right D-ring extender has my red hook attached and locked. Black on black. Reel is unlocked. Green hook is locked on the red reel. Yellow hook is locked on the green reel. Green reel is unlocked. And Peggy's
Right waist tether.
right waist tether is on my green reel with both sliders locked, black on black.
And I can verify that my safety tether rails are both in the unlocked position. Got my red reel, my red tether point attached to my D-ring extender on my left side, and the other is attached to my mini workstation.
Okay, and when the crew lock DPDT will reach 0, you will expect an alert tone, and Peggy will watch on the EV hatch a delta P of less than 0.5 psi.
All right, we're around 3 now.
This is the one that takes a long time, right, Peggy?
Yes, it is.
Once we get close, we could fire up the GoPros.
Yeah.
Airlock Houston on 1, Peggy for you. We need confirmation on your yellow hook, please.
Okay, my yellow hook is on my green reel, and it is locked, and the green hook is on my red reel. Up to it. Really matter?
Peggy Whitson in the midst of a 9.5-month mission aboard the International Space Station, configuring hooks and tethers on her spacesuit and her mini workstation, which is basically a tool box that is mounted on the front of her extravehicular mobility unit, being assisted by Jack Fisher as the 2 spacewalkers configure all of their equipment in the proper orientation before opening the outer thermal cover and then the hatch to the crew lock section of Quest prior to placing their suits on internal battery power that will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. The depressurization of the crew lock is continuing slowly but surely down to vacuum.
Pressure to drop. I'm being reminded that when you egress, you'll have a very good view on our Soyuz, so make sure you enjoy that view.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Pesquet referring to the Soyuz MSO-3 spacecraft that is currently docked to the Rosviet module, which is on the space-facing side attached to the Zarya module of the International Space Station. Pesquet and Novitsky will be riding that Soyuz home to a landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan on June 2nd, landing scheduled at 9:09 a.m. Central Time on Friday, June 2nd, which will be 8:09 p.m. in Kazakhstan, just a little over an hour before sunset.
My last, okay.
We're in a handover between tracking and data relay satellites for downlink TV from the International Space Station. We'll be picking up on the other side on another satellite here momentarily.
Yeah. Keep everything on your left.
Yeah. That's a smidge over 1 G.
Roger. Wheels, if you got that, we're moved my main reel hook to the Peggy's left waist tether. I can confirm both ends of that tether are butter closed, black on black, locked.
Copy, Two Fish. Thank you.
The pressure in the crew lock section of Quest approaching vacuum. Again, once we do reach vacuum, there will be a final check of the suits and their systems by Whitson and Fisher. Final communications checks with the team here in Mission Control led by Flight Director Brian Smith. He recently conducted a poll of his flight controllers. Everyone is go for EVA. This, again, a planned spacewalk, a contingency spacewalk of just about 2.5 hours in duration that was ordered on Sunday by mission managers, International Space Station program managers, following Saturday's failure of one of two fully redundant multiplexer-demultiplexer computer relay boxes housed in the S0 truss of the International Space Station.
And 22 and 19 go to bag number 2.
Okay, good copy, Thomas. That's what we expected. Thank you.
Sorry, I might have misspoken, but 22 and 19 go to bag number 1, and 15 and 16 bag number 2.
Copy, Thomas.
Nate. 7.
Once the two spacewalkers place their suits on an internal battery power to mark the official start of today's excursion, Whitson will be first out of the Quest airlock. She will configure her tools, her tethers, and then wait for Jack Fisher to emerge. They'll close the thermal cover on the Quest airlock, and then Whitson will make her way to the S0 truss to begin work to replace the failed multiplexer-demultiplexer. Fisher will part ways with Whitson and move to the Destiny laboratory to begin work to install the two antennas on the lab that will be used for enhanced wireless communications in the future. We're standing by for the opening of the hatch to the Quest airlock. This will be Peggy Whitson's 10th spacewalk, tying her with Mike Lopez Alegria, former NASA astronaut, for most spacewalks conducted by an American astronaut in history. Whitson has 57 hours and 35 minutes of spacewalking time coming into today's excursion. This will be the second spacewalk for Jack Fisher, 4 hours 13 minutes logged on his first spacewalk with Whitson back on May 12th.
North.
The hatch is now open on the Quest airlock.
Oh, maybe.
Nice. Good job.
I just lost it.
Almost there. Got it. Locked.
Okay, I copy. The hatch is open, stowed, and locked. I'll take the emergency MPV to close, and with that, I'll hand you over to Jessica. You guys be safe.
All right. We'll see you in a bit.
Hello, Two Fish and Peggy. This is your ground IV. How do you read?
Have you loud and clear, Jessica?
Loud and clear.
Okay, on your DCMs for both of you, switch power to BAT, stagger your switch throws, and expect a warning tone.
On and back.
D2 in bat.
Check your display switch is functional.
Yes, it is for 1.
It's for 2.
Two fish on the UIA, switch power for EV 1 and 2 to off.
EV 1 and 2 are off, EMU lights off.
Copy, all 4 LEDs off. For both of you, you can demate your SCUs from your DCM, install the DCM cover, and stow the SCU in the pouch.
With spacecraft communicator Jessica Meir now taking over the communications chores for Whitson and Fisher. Today's spacewalk officially underway at 6:20 a.m. Central Time, 7:20 a.m. Eastern Time, as Whitson and Fisher place their suits on internal battery power some 40 minutes ahead of the timeline. Again, the 201st spacewalk in support of station assembly and maintenance underway at 6:20 a.m. Central Time, 7:20 a.m. Eastern Time.
Well, if I'm running into your puss.
I think it's my feet. I have them curled up to try to get out of your way. Or can I move them for you?
Actually, if you move them down so I can get a little more port, I can put this in the pouch.
There we go. Enough?
Yeah.
With today's spacewalk officially underway, as Whitson and Fisher have placed their suits on internal battery power for those keeping track, assuming nothing untoward happens, Peggy Whitson will surpass Jerry Ross to move into 4th place on the all-time spacewalking list for aggregate spacewalking time at 6:40 a.m. Central Time, and will move into 3rd place past John Grunsfeld at 7:15 a.m. Central Time.
For both of you on your DCM, take your temperature control valve to max hot.
Max out for 2.
Max hot for 1.
Switch water to on, O-N.
Water on for 1.
Water on for 2.
Check your DCM is blank and bite off.
Blank, no bite for 1.
Blank, no bite for 2.
Take your temperature control valve as desired between 3 and max C.
Work. Is it 3? EV1.
It's 6 for EV2.
Please report your suit pressure gauge.
4.3.
4.3.
Good suit numbers reported. The 2 extravehicular mobility units being worn today by Whitson and Fisher have operated perfectly since the crew began their suit-up procedures in the wee hours this morning. Again, today's spacewalk began officially at 6:20 a.m. Central Time when Whitson and Fisher placed their suits on internal battery power. The International Space Station is flying 250 miles over the Philippine Sea, moving from southwest to northeast, soon to pass just to the south of Tokyo.
Copy. Looks like the thermal cover has already popped open, so Peggy, you have a go to egress the airlock.
Okay. And I need to come port to get my head down.
What are we shooting? You were on a... How's that?
Okay. There you go. Better.
Right, trailers are clear.
And Peggy, as you egress, a reminder that your first step will be to attach your anchor hook to the forward external D-ring.
That's in right. I'm going to get a local down first.
Almost 15 years after she conducted her first spacewalk in a Russian spacesuit, out of the Piers docking compartment, Peggy Whitson begins the 10th spacewalk of her career in a U.S. extravehicular mobility unit.
Yellow's closed. Black on black. Wheel unlocked. Yellow's connected to the red. Locked. And green rail is also unlocked. So both unlocked and green is connected to the red. And I'll start working on X.
Copy all, Peggy. You'll be attaching Two Fish's anchor hooks to the airlock handrail 554, the handrail running starboard port on the port stanchion.
Yeah. Okay. On the port stanchion, valve closed and locked. Black on black.
With that, you're in a good config. Peggy, you can give Two Fish his go to release his waist tether from the airlock D-ring.
Right. Surrogate woman, there's your go and release when you're ready.
I'm released.
Okay. And
Two Fish, your first move will be to transfer the MDM ORU bag to Peggy.
Just waiting outside for you, Peggy.
all righty. And I got my BRT red on it.
Okay, I'm taking this red off.
Okay.
Still inside the crew lock section of the Quest airlock, Jack Fisher is helping Peggy Whitson with the what's called an ORU bag. That's an orbital replacement unit bag, in which contains the spare multiplexer demultiplexer that Whitson basically constructed from spare parts on Sunday morning in the wake of the failure of the external MDM on the S0 truss on Saturday.
Copy, Peg.
And you are go to egress.
Copy that. Got the My BRT ret on the handrail.
Copy 2 Fish, and a reminder that you'll want that ret on handrail 261 Alpha.
It's on 261 Alpha. You going with visor down right now, Peggy?
I actually have mine open right now. I'm in the shadow over here.
All right.
Done. Right against the back.
Bring it out a little bit just so I can. Yep. Will do. BRT joint's locked.
All right, I see your right safer handle down. Your right tab is up. Left safer handle is down. You need to move the camera so I can see your left tab. Okay, both of those are up, and you have a green light on your WVS, so you look pretty good there.
I see 1, 2, 3 tabs up. Got 2 handles down. Green light. Your lights are on. Take your camera. See if the red light's flashing. Yep.
Jack Fisher now emerging from the Quest airlock. They will close the thermal cover behind them. There's Fisher on the right, wearing the suit with no stripes. Peggy Whitson on the left, wearing the suit with the red stripes as EV1. She'll have helmet camera number 18 once those helmet cameras are activated a short time from now. Fisher's helmet camera will carry the number 20.
Aye for 1.
Right for 2.
Okay, copy all. Those are good buddy checks. Peggy, you'll be leading the translation. As you know, you'll be translating up to the Epic MDM work site, just port of the Cedarspur on Phase 1. And 2 Fish, as you know, you'll be translating to the lab handrail 258, nadir on the lab via the high-pressure gas tank and the gap spanner.
Copy that. See you later, Peggy.
All righty.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Whitson and Fisher now both out of the Quest airlock will make their way to separate work sites. Whitson will make her way over to the S0 truss at the middle point of the backbone of the International Space Station, while Fisher makes his way to the Destiny Laboratory. He'll be installing a pair of antennas on the lab on special tracks that are mounted on the lab itself. He'll then install wires, cables and wires to hook up those antennas that will be used for enhanced wireless video and communications capability in the years ahead for future spacewalks. Whitson will be operating solely on the removal and replacement of the failed multiplexer demultiplexer.
Let's come on phase 1. And at the work site, or at least next to the work site.
Copy, Peggy. You'll be temp stowing your MDM ORU bag on top of the Nader MDM, suggested tethering to the CETA handrail.
Guys, I got my green hook down on 253.
Copy, green hook on 253. Two Fish, I have some warnings and a caution for you. Stay 1 foot from the UHF antennas. Do not translate on the gap spanners, which are restraining the Node 3 lab ammonia jumpers. And a caution, when you get over to the lab forward end cone, do not use the EWIS antennas as a handrail.
Copy that.
Spacecraft communicator Jessica Meir here in Mission Control with the usual standard caution and warning reminders for Jack Fisher that you see there as he makes his way toward the Destiny Laboratory for the installation of wireless communications antennas, a pair of those antennas, a high wire act 250 miles over the Bering Sea.
Okay, I've got one CET down on the CETA trail. Remove mine, and then I'm going to probably put the other one down this way.
This video is being shot through one of the windows on the International Space Station by Thomas Pesquet through a handheld camera. Peggy Whitson making her way to the work site of the S0 truss with the replacement, the spare multiplexer, demultiplexer that will be installed in the slot to replace the failed MDM, as it is called. This is a computer data relay box, one of 2 redundant computer data relay boxes that control the functionality of the station's major systems, such as the solar arrays, the radiators, the robotics, the cooling loops on the station, a critical piece of equipment that failed on Saturday, necessitating today's contingency spacewalk. And our first view from Peggy Whitson's helmet camera as she begins to set up shop at the S0 truss. There are 2 external multiplexer, demultiplexers that are in slots in the truss that are side by side, essentially.
Okay.
And you're looking at the failed MDM right now through her helmet camera.
Cable on the other epic. I messed that one up. All right, hat is still dry, and gloves are still great. No damage.
Copy, Peggy.
Epic MDM number is 16 Echo-0102.
Copy, Peggy. That is as expected. Since we do have the time for it, we would like you to take a minute to photograph the MDM and the receptacle in the area using your GoPro, and we'll take a view in your WVS as well.
All right.
And as we enjoy the view from Peggy Whitson's helmet camera, we can mark this moment at 6:40 a.m. Central Time at the 20-minute mark into today's spacewalk. Whitson has now vaulted past Jerry Ross into 4th place on the all-time spacewalking list for aggregate spacewalking time. At the 55-minute mark, about 35 minutes from now, she will pass John Grunsfeld and move into 3rd place.
And Two Fish, a reminder, during your stow, you'll want 262 alpha against the lab structure, since the first one you'll be removing is 261 alpha.
First one I'll be installing. Yeah.
And as Whitson photographs the failed multiplexer demultiplexer on the S0 truss, again this view of Jack Fisher through a handheld camera being shot through a window on the International Space Station by Thomas Pesquet as Fisher begins work to set up his equipment for the installation of a pair of antennas that will be used to enhance wireless communications capability from the International Space Station.
And two fish, another warning and caution for you. Once installed, do not contact the EWC antenna boom, as it could spring back. And once installed, do not BRT to the EWC antenna handrails.
Copy that.
And Jessica, let me know if you in the WDS.
Copy, Peg, we're looking. View looks good, Peg. All right, Peg, looks like you already have your BRT on 3445. You can retrieve the ret hook from the ORU bag lid. It's on the inside of the lid, and attach it to the failed MDM tether point, of course, the Zenith MDM that you're looking at.
Okay. From the bag is attached to the MDM. Let me knock it out, though, so pull on it.
Copy, Peg. You have a go to demate the MDM Ethernet cable from the EPIC MDM, and we'll take a report. And two fish, I see you are on your way to handrail 257.
Confirm. Alpha, good EMI band. I don't know if you can see it in the WVS, but it looks good. No damage.
Copy, Peg. Good inspection. You may or may not need to restrain that Ethernet cable. Suggestion you could maybe restrain that to 3445 or 3446 if it's going to be in your way for the R&R.
I think I'm going to put it on the Zenith one with that here to hold it back. That's 3445.
Copy. Two fish, when you get to lab handrail 257, the suggested orientation would be head starboard, feet port.
Copy that.
And Peggy, I have PGT settings when you're ready.
Okay, let's go. Turn back there. Okay.
Two fish, with your BRT in position, the first thing that you'll be doing is depressing the OIH buttons on the handrail 261 alpha, both of those buttons forward and aft.
Those are down.
And Peggy, your settings are Bravo 1, counterclockwise 2.
Copy, Bravo 1, counterclockwise
2. Fish, you'll be sliding handrail 261 Alpha aft to forward into the OH seat track. Reminder, the antenna boom should be facing towards lab forward.
Copy that.
And Peggy, you'll first be releasing the secondary bolts, expecting 7 to 14 turns.
Copy, secondary first. I'll work on starboard first. 7 to 14. Okay. And it's 13 turns, and it springs back by hand.
Copy, Peggy, 13 turns, and the bolts sprung out.
Working on the port.
Copy.
And Jessica, these just popping up if you're wondering what I'm flirting around with. Got 'em. Okay, they're in and pushed. Ready for settings.
Copy, 2 Fish. Your settings are Alpha 2, clockwise 2, 1 minute from a very brief LOS.
A 2 clockwise, 2, and 9 turns, right?
You'll be driving those bolts 15 turns max to a hard stop. Yes, expecting 9.
The port secondary bolt is out and springs back to the touch.
This is Mission Control Houston, moving with the same speed as they did back on May 12th. Whitson and Fisher on separate tasks in this contingency spacewalk. At the 29-minute mark, Peggy Whitson currently using a pistol grip tool to remove a pair of what are called secondary bolts holding the failed multiplexer, demultiplexer in place. You can see that activity through her helmet camera view. A total of 3 bolts holding this box in place. The multiplexer, demultiplexer, again, measures 14.4 inches by 8 inches by 13.2 inches. Back on Earth, it weighs about 50 pounds. This failed MDM will be removed. Whitson and Kimbrough, Shane Kimbrough, during Expedition 50, just installed this particular computer data relay box during a March 30th spacewalk. And for reasons unknown at this point, it failed on Saturday, so it's being removed and replaced by a spare that Whitson built up from existing spare parts and processing cards back on Sunday. Once again, we're in a handover between communications satellites on the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System. We'll pick up downlink TV from the International Space Station just a moment or two from now. As the International Space Station currently flies directly over Las Vegas, moving from northwest to southeast at an altitude of 250 statute miles.
Copy, Peggy. Low torque after 5 turns, 3.5. Stand by. And Two Fish, I got your report from the aft bolt. Did you have your report from the forward bolt as well?
Trying to get that red off. It kind of got jammed in. It's off now, moving to the forward bolt.
Copy.
Jack Fisher working on the Destiny laboratory of the International Space Station. You're looking at the view from his helmet camera. Is in the process of installing the first of two antennas that will enhance wireless communications capability for future spacewalkers outside of the outpost.
Okay, Peggy. First of all, please check that you don't have any side loads. And then we're going to drive that bolt one more turn. Bravo 1, clockwise 2.
Bravo 1, clockwise. Got a good body position. I feel like I'm right on, so. Bravo 1, clockwise. Turn.
Bolt's done, Jessica. Good torque light, 3.1 on the torque, 8.
You're listening to Jack Fisher, but looking at Peggy Whitson as they work in SIMO here, with Whitson in the process of removing the failed multiplexer demultiplexer at the S0 truss on the backbone of the International Space Station. Fisher, meanwhile, working in tandem on a separate task, the installation of two antennas for a wireless communications capability outside the complex.
Counterclockwise 2.
Bravo 1, counterclockwise 2. Enter.
And Two Fish, looks like you're working on releasing the cable wire tie from the antenna boom. You'll be securing that to the handrail. And did you get a good tug test?
I sure did.
Copy.
20 turns, and as I was pulling it off, I got a low torque, but I think it's fine.
Copy, Peg. Stand by. Okay, Peggy, we concur it looks good, and you think it's fully released?
Can check it. Nope, not quite.
Copy, Peg. Not quite fully released. Stand by.
Total of 3 bolts holding the multiplexer demultiplexer in place in its slot on the S0 truss. 2 secondary bolts, 1 primary bolt. Whitson continues to use the pistol grip tool to drive those bolts free so that the MDM can be removed and replaced with a spare unit.
Bravo 1, counterclockwise 2 set.
And Two Fish, please ensure that the boom aligns with the handrail base alignment marker.
Yeah. Okay, it's fully released now. I did a total of 26, but I think it was out before then.
Copy, Peggy. You can temp stow your PGT.
Okay.
And Two Fish, you confirmed good alignment?
Yep.
Copy that. I see you're headed back to retrieve the next handrail. You'll be reading to 262 Alpha and releasing that from the fish stringer.
Copy that.
The crew running ahead of their timeline by a considerable margin here. A good view of Jack Fisher as he's working to install a pair of handrails on the Destiny laboratory, upon which a pair of wireless antennas will be mounted and cables rigged for the enhancement of wireless communications outside of the International Space Station in the years ahead.
Looks good. Few little scratches on it.
Copy, Peg.
There's a connection point from the rear. Great. I don't know if you have a WSD, but it looks good.
Copy, Peggy. Yes, we can see it in your WVS.
Peggy Whitson conducting a visual inspection of that failed MDM that she's holding. Nothing untoward being shown in this view from her helmet camera.
On the truss itself for any residual cotherm.
Okay. And I'm going to back a little bit.
So just 38 minutes into today's contingency spacewalk, the failed multiplexer demultiplexer has been unbolted and will be stowed by Whitson.
As you know, you'll be releasing the jack cap from Juliet 5 Alpha onto with the fish stringer.
Roger that, inward.
Whitson will be working to install the replacement multiplexer demultiplexer in that same slot a short time from now. Once it is bolted into place, the go will be given for the flight control team here in Houston to power up the unit and to ensure that we have a healthy box. There will be a period of diagnostic analysis of the loading of the software into that box and its full operability over the next few hours, but the first test will be to make sure that we have a healthy box installed to replace the failed unit that Peggy Whitson has just removed from the S0 truss.
All right, Peggy, go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see on the WVS, I have a view of the connection points for the MDM. They all look clean, no FOD, no damage or scarring or anything. And the surface, the cold plate surface, is clean.
We copy, Peggy. That sounds like a good inspection. We're ready to start with steps for the install. Once you grab the spare MDM, we'll take an inspection of that one as well.
All right. I had to get in the truss a bit to get that inspection done.
Again, Peggy Whitson describing what appears to be a clean set of electrical connectors, nothing untoward being viewed in her analysis of the area that the multiplexer demultiplexer is housed in. Engineers are unsure at this moment as to what caused the failure of this component back on Saturday morning. They're fairly certain it was an internal failure of some sort, and may bear further analysis, assuming the unit is returned to Earth. And again, an outstanding view of Jack Fisher as he works to install the second of a pair of handrails on the Destiny laboratory of the International Space Station, which is currently flying just to the west of Costa Rica on a northwest to southeasterly track that will carry it across Ecuador a few moments from now. Fisher working to install a pair of antennas for an enhanced wireless communications capability, while Whitson is working to install a replacement, a spare multiplexer, demultiplexer on the S0 truss, which precipitated the failure of the MDM, one of the two fully redundant MDMs on Saturday. That failure precipitated today's contingency spacewalk.
Second boom that you already installed close to where your feet are now.
Copy. Looks like it's a foot away, right?
Affirm 2 Fish should be about a foot away.
Okay.
Once again, looking out of the helmet camera of Peggy Whitson as she stows the failed multiplexer, demultiplexer in her orbital replacement unit bag. This will be returned to the safety of the Quest airlock a short time from now after the spare MDM that Whitson built up out of spare parts on Sunday is installed in the slot on the S0 truss.
Okay, the one little bubble where we had in the cotherm bubbled back up again, but it's not any worse than it was before. I don't know if you can still see that.
Copy, Peg. Stand by.
Again, this is the same unit that Whitson and Shane Kimbrough installed during a spacewalk on Expedition 50 on March 30th.
The NVL deck looks good, clear, no fog. Pins are straight. And the blind mate connectors, 15, all the pins still look straight.
Copy, Peg. Stand by on the cotherm.
Settings on this side, right, Jessica?
Your settings are Alpha 2, clockwise 2.
Clockwise 2.
Affirm.
Great, thanks.
Again, expecting 9 turns, a max of 15.
Copy that.
Okay, Peggy, we are go with a cotherm as is. So you can.
In diagnostics, and the next step will be to load the new software into its processing card. So a successful replacement of the MDM today.
Diagnostics now.
Good, good. Thanks to that fabulous building work by Thomas and Jack, and the procedures sent out by the guys from the ground.
Once again, at the 2-hour, 18-minute mark into today's spacewalk, success declared by the flight controllers here in Mission Control. A healthy replacement multiplexer, demultiplexer, which was put into play, built up by Peggy Whitson out of spare parts on Sunday morning after the other MDM in the slot in the S0 truss had failed on Saturday morning, requiring today's contingency spacewalk. So the flight control team will spend some time now not only loading software into this MDM, but doing a series of routine health checks as the new software comes up and running. But the good news is the MDM has good electrical connectivity and is up and running in good shape.
And Two Fish, while you're cleaning things up there, it looks like one of the thermal booties from the NZGL connector, which is closest to your waist tether, may have slid down. So you can double check that all those thermal booties are in place, please.
All booties in place.
And two fish, since you checked the slack, do you think that two fish in the other antenna that you installed, do you think that there is some slack in that one as well?
I'll loosen that one a little bit. There's not much on that one.
Okay, copy. We concur. And go ahead, Peg.
I just wanted to tell you my DRT red is now on the bag, and I'm removing the AET.
Copy, Peg.
Still location.
Copy, Peg.
Clean up going, Peg.
I've got the bag on my BRT, and I can re-verify, Jessica, that those cables, the Ethernet cables that we moved up here are out clear of the MT translation path. I don't know if you have a good view on my WAS, but it looks good back there on handrail 3446.
We copy, Peg. Thanks for that. We'll take a glove and hap check and a safer check one more time before you leave the worksite.
Good thing. Gloves are still good, hap is still dry, and safer check-in work. Right handle down. Right handle down.
Copy, Peg. That's a good report. With that, you can leave your worksite and translate back to the airlock.
And work.
And we had a brief LOS. We're back with you now.
I'm on the Cetusburg.
Copy.
There's got a slack there.
I'm showing complete here.
Okay,
the fish stringer with 4 caps on my MWS.
We copy. Fish stringer with 4 caps, and then you also have the connector cleaner toolkit still.
That's on my swing arm.
Copy on your swing arm. With that, your work there is complete, Two Fish. You did mention having that extra wire tie for that cable that you saw with a bit of slack before the EVA. So you have a go to do that as you feel necessary, and we'll take a glove and a hap check before you leave the work site as well.
About a 1 millimeter tear and 30G on the right glove. Back your hand, no problems. At the airlock.
Copy Two Fish. Copy Peggy. You can open the thermal cover.
Thermal cover open. Peggy, I'm going to do this one last wire tie.
Copy thermal cover. And Two Fish, your hap's still dry as well?
That's dry. Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston approaching the 2.5-hour mark into today's spacewalk. A contingency spacewalk that was declared by station program management over the weekend following the failure of one of 2 fully redundant multiplexer demultiplexers. These are computer relay boxes that govern the functionality of much of the station's critical equipment. They're both located in the S0 truss. One of the MDMs, as they are called, that was installed during a spacewalk back in late March by Shane Kimbrough and Peggy Whitson, failed on Saturday morning. And on Sunday, program management determined that a contingency spacewalk was required and would be conducted today by Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher to replace that failed unit. Whitson spent Sunday morning building up a spare unit, loading it with an enhanced processing card, one of the new EPIC cards, as they are called, enhanced processing interface cards. And that spare was brought out today and installed by Whitson and powered up by the flight control team here in Houston and declared to be healthy as it goes through the initial phase of its diagnostics and the checkout of its software processing capability. While Whitson was installing the new MDM into its slot in the S0 truss, Jack Fisher was working on the Destiny laboratory to install a pair of antennas that will be used for enhanced wireless communications capability downstream. He also rigged electrical cables for those 2 antennas. These were the only 2 tasks on the docket for today. The crew is preparing now to clean up all of its tools and other equipment and return to the airlock.
Did you have a waist tether down?
Yeah, on the airlock steering extender, internal.
Copy.
All right. That cable's all pretty. I got my green hook. I'm headed home. All right.
Great work, Two Fish. We'll see you at the airlock.
feeding. I'm right here, 6, Elijah. I saw you. All right, so I need to give you... Let me grab that and grab. I'm going to get rid of that, fish string.
You ready? Ready?
Yeah, it's further down.
This is Mission Control Houston. Flight controllers reporting great news that we now have a fully healthy multiplexer, demultiplexer. It has gone through its diagnostics, testing, and is up and running as a perfect MDM. So we now have two healthy computer relay boxes operating in tandem with one another, fully redundant, just the way we want it. To be able to control the functionality of all critical station equipment.
Yes, verified lots. Black on black, they're closed. Okay.
So both of our tasks for today are complete. The replacement of a failed computer data relay box that precipitated today's spacewalk, and the installation of a pair of communications antennas on the Destiny laboratory. And with that, you're looking at Jack Fisher as he prepares to return to the Quest airlock as we now move into the home stretch of today's contingency spacewalk.
Okay, we copy that. And Two Fish, you've already released your anchor hook then. You have it on your waist tether.
Just released my anchor hook. I had to connect to hers first.
Copy and concur.
All right, I'm all cleaned up outside. All right.
All right, Two Fish, you have a go to ingress.
I'm out in the forward wall. If you want me in the aft, I can slide over there, whichever you prefer.
Okey doke. I'm going to stop about halfway, grab the thermal cover. Thermal cover is closed.
Copy thermal cover. You can remove your SCUs from the stowage pouch. Once you remove the SCU from the pouch, you can remove your DCM cover and Velcro it to your DCM and connect your SCUs to your DCM.
This is Mission Control Houston. This view now inside the equipment lock section of the Quest airlock. This spacewalk now drawing to a close. You're looking at Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency, who helped suit the crew up in the wee hours this morning and will supervise the repressurization of the crew lock section of Quest that is just beyond that hatchway. At the 2-hour, 36-minute mark into today's spacewalk, to recap, the tasks that were put into today's contingency spacewalk have been completed successfully, that being the replacement of a failed multiplexer, demultiplexer, computer data relay box by Peggy Whitson. The flight control team here in Houston activated that spare MDM, as it is known, and powered it up, performed diagnostics on the new box, and it is up and running in excellent shape. So we have 2 healthy MDMs now for the controllability of all of the critical station functioning. Those 2 MDMs reside side by side in the in respective slots in the S0 truss. While Whitson was working on the MDM replacement, Jack Fisher was at the Destiny Laboratory installing a pair of antennas and rigging cables, electrical cables to those antennas that will be used for wireless communications capability for future spacewalks downstream. This was the 201st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance, the 10th for Whitson. Her 10 spacewalks ties her with Mike Lopez Alegria for the most spacewalks ever conducted by an American astronaut. Early in the spacewalk, she surpassed both Jerry Ross and John Grunsfeld in aggregate spacewalking time, moving into 3rd place on the all-time list, behind Russian cosmonaut Anatoly Soloviev and Mike Lopez Alegria.
TV2 water off.
A caution for you, do not close the hatch until EMU water is off for 2 minutes. We're 40 seconds from an LOS now. We will call that for you. And verify the outer hatch is clear of hardware.
Clear of hardware.
Good job, Jack. Coming over to help on the cleaning.
Those cables, we didn't really have a plan on them.
Yeah.
And it was messy site. There's cables everywhere, so I had to redo a bunch of them, and
Yeah.
took a long time.
All right. I'm sure it looks pretty. Prettier anyway.
That the board turns green.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
I'm in a good position for your hat.
I think so.
Okay.
And we had an LOS. We are back with you guys, and great news. We've completed the configs on the MDM, and we have a healthy MDM in place now as a viable backup for station. So excellent work getting us back into a nominal config.
Very good. We are very happy about that. Great work by the team.
And another update for you, pretty impressive, I think, from all the work down here of everybody at NASA and you guys. Our EXT-1 failure occurred only 2 days, 21 hours, 38 minutes from now, and we are already back in a good position. So excellent work to everybody down here on the ground, and most importantly to you guys up there.
Back at you.
Yeah, you guys did a phenomenal job.
You were just saying that for a flight, we're hoping that the board turns green.
With that,
we'll say no.
with that, Two Fish, you can verify the outer hatch is clear of hardware, and verify the handle position is per the hatch decal.
Yes.
Verify the handle position is
Is ready.
Copy. You can close and lock the hatch.
Copy. In order.
This is Mission Control Houston. Spacecraft communicator Jessica Meir here in Mission Control, providing congratulatory words to Whitson and Fisher upon the completion of their replacement of a failed computer data relay box that now brings us back to a normal configuration with two healthy MDMs, multiplexer, demultiplexers, governing critical station functionality. Back in April of 2014, when a similar but not identical failure occurred to one of the MDMs on the S0 truss, it took 12 days to mount a contingency spacewalk for Steve Swanson and Rick Mastracchio to do almost exactly what Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher accomplished today. This spacewalk was accomplished in less than 3 calendar days. The contingency spacewalking team put together all of the plans very quickly. Approval was given by space station program managers on Sunday, and the spacewalk was carried out earlier today. Whitson and Fisher are back inside the crew lock section of Quest as we stand by for the normal post-spacewalk procedures that will result in the repressurization of the crew lock a short time from now, signaling the official end to today's spacewalk.
SDUs are mated to your DCMs and your water is off.
Mated water off.
Mated water off.
Copy. As you just reported, the hatch is closed. So Peggy, on the UIA, check oxygen EMU 1 and 2 valves are open.
Oxygen EMU 1 and 2 valves are open.
Switch power for EV 1 and 2 to on, ON.
On. EV 2 on. 18.5 and 18.4. Light.
Copy that and copy good lights. On your DCMs, switch power to SCU and expect a warning tone.
EV1, SCU.
E2 SCU.
Copy. Take your oxygen actuators to press.
Okay. Two position press for 1.
Copy.
Just a second.
Morning. Take your time.
2 press for 2.
Copy 1 and 2. With that, we'll be switching your comm mode to hardline, and I will be turning you back over to Thomas. Two Fish, when you enter, since you did switch SCUs, you'll also switch EDAs. So Two Fish will be on the aft EDA and Peggy on the forward. Great job once again, guys, and we'll leave you in the capable hands of Thomas.
All right. Thank you, guys. Again, great job by the team down there.
Absolutely. Great job, everybody. Thanks for getting us ready so quick and getting us back in a good config.
It's in a hard line.
Thanks, Jessica. You guys can switch to your comm mode to hardline. Just check that the EV hatch MPEV is closed. I'll take the IV hatch equalization valve to normal. You guys expect an alert tone.
This is Mission Control Houston. The repressurization of the crew lock section of the Quest airlock is underway, and today's spacewalk has completed at 2 hours and 46 minutes. The repressurization starting at 9:06 a.m. Central Time. The official end of today's spacewalk, 9:06 a.m. Central Time. Today's spacewalk lasting 2 hours and 46 minutes. We'll have statistics for you here momentarily.
We'll wait 2 minutes.
Москвы МКС СГ-1, Ля-1.
This is Mission Control Houston as we continue to monitor the repressurization of the Quest airlock, momentarily paused at 5 pounds per square inch, now continuing to be repressurized. Today's statistics for the spacewalk, the contingency spacewalk that was conducted by Peggy Whitson and Jack Fisher, ostensibly to replace the failed multiplexer, demultiplexer in the S0 truss of the station. We now have 2 healthy MDMs. Today was the 201st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance. This was the 10th spacewalk for Peggy Whitson, tying her with Mike Lopez Alegria for the most spacewalks ever conducted by an American astronaut. Peggy Whitson now stands with 60 hours and 21 minutes of spacewalking time in her 10 spacewalks that date back to August of 2002. She is third on the all-time spacewalking list in aggregate EVA time, behind Russian cosmonaut Anatoly Solovyev, who conducted 16 spacewalks totaling 78 hours and 21 minutes. Lopez Alegria's 10 spacewalks amounted to 67 hours and 40 minutes. Again, Whitson with 10 spacewalks, 60 hours and 21 minutes of spacewalking time. Jack Fisher now with 2 spacewalks to his resume, a total of 6 hours and 59 minutes, both conducted during Expedition 51. For the 201 spacewalks conducted in space station history, now total 1,250 hours and 41 minutes. Again, the 201 spacewalks in support of space station assembly and maintenance totaled 1,250 hours and 41 minutes of spacewalking time.
Okay, so resume the repress equipment for both. You should expect an alert tone, and when the crew-lock DPDT reaches 0, you should also expect an alert tone.
Russian cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky now in the field of view in the equipment lock section of Quest, joining Pesquet. They will share the responsibility of assisting Whitson and Fisher to doff their simplified aid for EVA rescued jetpacks and to help them doff their helmets and other equipment once they move them inside the equipment lock.
Can you hear me in Fry?
Loud and clear.
All right, got you loud and clear too.
Same thing that happened to you that other time?
It was much worse the previous time, but similar. It was constant.
And the repressurization of the crew lock section is now complete. Pesquet now will open the hatch and will bring our two spacewalkers back inside the equipment lock.
Airlock Houston on Space to Ground 1 for Thomas. Thomas, and to Peggy as well, just wanted to get a look. Maybe the squeal that Peggy was experiencing is from a misalignment of her comm cap.
Doesn't feel misaligned to me. And this is definitely a different comm cap than the one we had the problem with previously. This noise we had this time on repress was not as loud as the time with Shane. And it was not as continuous as it was with Shane.
Copy all, Peg. Thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. Peggy Whitson first back inside, wearing the suit bearing the red stripes. Again, Whitson completed a record-tying 10th spacewalk by an American astronaut today, a 2-hour, 46-minute contingency spacewalk that was ordered after the failure on Saturday of one of two fully redundant multiplexer-demultiplexer computer relay boxes out on the S0 truss of the station. Thomas Pesquet now bringing Jack Fisher back inside. Whitson, with her 10 spacewalks dating back to August of 2002, now has accumulated 60 hours and 21 minutes of spacewalking time, which puts her in third place in the overall aggregate EVA spacewalking list for most time outside, behind Russian cosmonaut Anatoly Soloviev and Mike Lopez Alegria, the former NASA astronaut who also conducted 10 spacewalks during his career. Fisher's 2 spacewalks now within an 11-day period have amounted to 6 hours and 59 minutes of spacewalking time.
I'm taller than you now.
Both Whitson and Jack Fisher now back inside the equipment lock. There will be some photos taken of their suits and gloves, which is standard operating practice. Thomas Pesquet in charge of the post-spacewalk timeline to get the crew out of their suits. A 2-hour, 46-minute spacewalk. Back in April of 2014, when Rick Mastracchio and Steve Swanson were called upon for a contingency spacewalk to replace a failed multiplexer-demultiplexer out on the truss. That was an hour and 36-minute spacewalk, but that did not include any additional tasks. Today, while Whitson was working on the MDM swap, Jack Fisher was installing a pair of antennas on the Destiny laboratory that will ultimately be used for an enhanced wireless communications capability. Peggy Whitson now in third place on the all-time spacewalking list for aggregate time outside in the void of space with her helmet off, standing by for Jack Fisher's helmet to be removed. This is Mission Control Houston. Whitson and Fisher now have had their helmets removed. Soon they'll be wriggling their way out of their extravehicular mobility units following a textbook 2-hour, 46-minute spacewalk, a contingency spacewalk that was called over the weekend after the failure of one of 2 computer data relay boxes out on the S0 truss of the station. That was replaced with a healthy spare, which is up and running in excellent shape. We also saw Jack Fisher install a pair of antennas on the Destiny laboratory that will be used for enhanced wireless communications capability in the future. So this spacewalk is now in the history books, as is Peggy Whitson, moving into third place on the all-time list for aggregate EVA time with her 10th spacewalk, matching that of Mike Lopez Alegria. She now has accumulated 60 hours and 21 minutes of spacewalking time, surpassing on this EVA Jerry Ross and John Grunsfeld. There's your top 5 spacewalkers of all time. So that'll bring to a close our coverage of today's spacewalk. We would invite you to continue to follow all space station activities on the web at www.nasa.gov/station. In the meantime, we wish you a good day. Thank you for tuning in. This is Mission Control Houston.